Hundreds of people who spent decades working at a hospital formerly on this site say they were told recently that their time isn't worth a dime. Just a few weeks ago, former employees of St. Clare's Hospital received a letter in the mail regarding their pension.
I started there in 1968. St. Clare's was my heart and soul.
For many, including Mary Hartshorn, it was a blow. She was informed she would only be receiving part of the pension promised to her.
A lot of us are in our 60s. What are we going to do?
The hospital closed in 2008 and is now the site of the McClellan Health Center. Hartshorn spent 28 years at St. Clare's in radiology and says it was a tight-knit community.
We talked with each other. We knew each other. How can this happen?
And she's one of the lucky ones.
Probably 1,200 people. At least half of them are getting nothing.
Others, like Karen Bradley, won't see a penny.
I will be receiving nothing that was promised to me.
She worked at the hospital for 25 years as a registered nurse. She was shocked when she received her letter.
Surprise and confusion. A lot of confusion.
She cherishes this rocking chair that was given to her from the hospital during her time there.
I loved it there. It was like, it is family, it still is.
She says she doesn't want her good memories to be ruined, but feels like she's getting no answers as to why and how this could have happened.
It's very unsettling because I don't want to have those kind of hurtful feelings, and I trusted in the people there to, to take care of us.
The former employees have started an online petition looking for help. So far, it has garnered more than 2,000 signatures. The former employees of St. Clare's Hospital say they're hoping a lawyer will take on their case pro bono and help them figure out a way forward. Schenectady County Legislature Majority Leader Gary Hughes says he's shocked by the stories he's heard by former St. Clare's employees.
You can't help but be moved by the fact that they cared so much for that work, and they worked so closely and lifted up St. Clare's.
More than 1,000 people spent decades inside the walls of the now defunct St. Clare's Hospital. Many of them told last month there was nothing left of their pension plans.
Their careers were spent working in our county, taking care of Schenectady people.
Hughes and the other members of the legislature passed a resolution throwing their support behind those affected.
We're sending our resolution to all of our legislators, to the governor, to the bishop, and to the cardinal.
Hughes says as he sees it, even though neither the church or the state is legally bound to do anything, it is the right thing to do.
This is an injustice, and there's either a state solution or there's a church solution. Maybe both.
He says there are millions of dollars in a fund called the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation, meant to help needy New Yorkers. This fund was created recently in the sale of a health care insurance plan, which the state also received money from.
They sound to us like the exact sort of people that probably could benefit from a grant from that foundation.
Hughes says the legislature is dedicated to finding a solution to help those who dedicated their lives to the health care and well-being of Schenectady County.
There's 1,100 broken lives out there. You can't let that stand.
It was back in December of 1984 when Mary Hartshorn received this annual report for her St. Clare's Hospital pension. At that point, enough money was contributed to the plan to sustain itself, and it was protected by ERISA.
That's the federal program that protects pensions.
But she wasn't protected for long. Sometime in the 1990s, the Catholic hospital took advantage of a religious exemption that allowed it not to pay insurance on its pension fund, saving the hospital money but giving future retirees like Hartshorn no guarantee they'd get their retirement funds. But she didn't find this out until 2005.
And in 2005, we also began to hear rumors that some of the money from our pension was taken out so that they could pay bills.
It was around this time that employees stopped receiving regular statements. Hartshorn says the hospital often cared for uninsured or underinsured patients. She worked in radiology.
I was thinking the same thing. We were doing a record number of cases. Those weren't paid for. I don't know who paid for them.
Hartshorn says at the time an executive confirmed to employees they took pension money to pay for operating expenses, which was legal since they were no longer under ERISA. Ellis Hospitals took over St. Clare's in 2008. When the hospital closed, New York State provided $28.5 million to go towards St. Clare's pension plan. But in a statement to News 10, The St. Clare's Corporation blames the 2008 recession for an 18% loss in value. In 2016 and again in 2017, pension participants were notified by the board that assets of the plan would run out sometime between 2024 and 2028, saying due to no source of income and nearly $70 million in liabilities, no more pensions will be paid after January of 2019.
Fred Zeman worked at St. Clare's Hospital for 32 years and, like many other former employees, loved his job.
You were doing something good. You were serving the community every day.
He has now had to reevaluate his personal budget after finding out he will only receive part of the pension he was promised.
That pension was going to keep one of us in our apartment when the other one died.
And hundreds of others like Patty Pangburn will have their pensions cut completely.
Not really expecting it. It was just such short notice that it's going to take a long time to really figure out.
She worked at St. Clare's and has been receiving payments for about 2 years now, but will get her last check in January.
Devastation, shock, the financial hardship that my husband and I will feel because of it.
Zeman says he's written to all of New York State's senators and assembly members. Senators Jim Tedisco and George Amador recently asked for the governor to get involved. The Department of Health sending me a statement in response saying the mismanagement of the pension fund is the responsibility of the diocese and they should fund their fair share. Zeman and Pangburn also placing some blame on the diocese as well as the state.
The people who have managed that fund have screwed it up.
I think the diocese and the state of New York could help us out.
Saying the toll this crisis is taking on them comes down to much more than just the money.
It's affecting us in all different kinds of ways, not just financial, emotional too.
The premise was that, of course, a church won't cheat you. And here it is.
The diocese says they don't have any legal responsibility over these pensions, but the bishop has offered to facilitate a conversation between all stakeholders involved. Yeah, just announced a little while ago, the Albany Diocese has arranged a discussion with the affected pensioners for December 20th. However, tomorrow marks the deadline for many of those who are receiving partial pensions to make a big decision. More than 1,000 former St. Clare's Hospital employees were notified recently the money for their pensions had run out. Now some of them are getting partial payments and others are getting nothing at all.
There's a general feeling of uneasiness.
Bob Bradley is a member of the pension committee and says those receiving partial pension payments need to decide by Friday whether they'll take their payment in full or continue to receive monthly installments.
Basically, they are liquidating the fund.
The payments will now be made through Prudential, not the St. Clare's Corporation. But a spokesperson for the corporation says those who do not provide a selection will receive monthly payments, as that is the default payment system under the pension plan. Pensioners have also been waiting for a meeting with the bishop, which has now been scheduled for December 20th. He released a statement Thursday saying, "Our best instincts call us first to come together to the relief of those most affected. That's why I continue to plan for the opportunity to call together an assembly of all stakeholders so that pensioners may ask questions and share their stories." Bradley says with the support of local, county, and state lawmakers, they are hoping to have a solution soon.
We still have options. We're still pursuing everything that we can. And
Jack Henry has found himself in an interesting situation. When he heard about Thursday's scheduled meeting with the bishop, he thought he'd finally get some answers.
Well, I thought it was a good thing, except that I'm not going to be able to go. And then I thought, well, I could send somebody in my behalf.
And after he heard that News 10 had been uninvited from covering the discussion, he said it was a major red flag.
What they're doing is wrong, and it appears as though they're hiding something if they don't want to have the media there.
Now he's using his right to information on the pensions to provide some transparency.
All right, this is what we need.
Jack, you understand this is a sworn statement. You're authorizing her to appear on your behalf?
Yes.
And you signed this in your capacity?
Yes, I did.
He signed this notarized affidavit requesting I be a proxy for him at Thursday's meeting, in hopes media coverage will disseminate what happens to the 1,100 affected pensioners.
Through the media, it would would make it so that they can get the information they need.
I am still in talks with the diocese as well as Siena College to find out a way for us to be allowed to cover that meeting on Thursday.
I just want to let you know that unfortunately there's not going to be any new information given at this session where the bishop is going to exercise his role as pastor for people who are suffering.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the thing is I do have this affidavit from a gentleman who is affected by the pension program, and he signed it for me to be his proxy and attend this meeting on his behalf. So is there anything you can do for me with this?
There isn't anything. No.
Okay, you can't let me in even though this is a notarized legal document?
No.
Okay.
All right.
We'll report that then. Okay.
I just want to let you know that unfortunately there's not going to be any new information given at this session where the bishop is going to exercise his role as pastor for people who are suffering.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the thing is I do have this affidavit from a gentleman who is affected by the pension program, and he signed it for me to be his proxy and attend this meeting on his behalf. So is there anything you can do for me with this?
There isn't anything. No.
Okay, you can't let me in even though this is a notarized legal document?
No.
Okay.
All right.
We'll report that then. Okay.
Would you be willing to work with the state?
Absolutely. I'll work with anybody that's willing to work in this. Absolutely.
To fund the pensions?
Well, that's a good question in itself. Whether or not what type of funding would be needed to do what. See, and I'm not an actuary, and I can't make any promises or even project what would be needed. So part of the thing we have to find out is what would be needed in some way to help, and in what way we can help. I hope that's the best way I can say it at this point. It's in my heart to do everything I possibly can to help these people.
Bishop Edward Scharfenberger speaking for the first time with the pensioners of St. Clare's Hospital. More than 1,000 former employees of the Catholic hospital had their pensions either reduced or pulled. The media wasn't allowed inside, but he answered questions afterwards.
I do see myself as in a position as like a father who is taking care of his family. And when I know my family is hurting, I want to do what I can to be available to them.
Many have accused the hospital pension board, comprised of the bishop and several Catholic priests, of misleading career-long employees by suddenly taking away their pensions. In the past, Mary Hartshorn, who worked in radiology, said the diocese should pay up.
I was skeptical at first, but he won me over. He said he loved us all and that he wanted to find a solution and that he cared and he would do his best to find it.
Bishop Scharfenberger was not around when the Berger Commission ordered the hospital to close in 2008.
And it's very possible that the funding itself was not adequate to begin with. That's possible.
It has been difficult in the past. After tonight's meeting, I think it's going to be much more transparent. We understand how the deficits occurred, but what the correction was at that time or what should have been addressed, I can't say.
In a resolution supporting the pensioners, the Schenectady County Legislature suggested a new multi-billion-dollar endowment to the Catholic Church as a funding source.
And certainly it's something we can look at. I would certainly see that as a possibility because it certainly would be within the mission of the Mother Cabrini Foundation.
The bishop hoping to work with the state or any others willing to help.
The beautiful thing is so many people have expressed a desire to help, but we're going to have to get together, put our heads together, and come together with some plan.